Okay. So welcome back. I know it's after lunch is always the most difficult speech anyhow, but I think it's a very exciting topic. It's a topic that we cover in so many years already, honestly, which is this attribute-based selling, which is probably not the right way of describing, right? It's a different way of thinking, maybe, of selling. So that's why the title is Thinking Sales Out of the Box. So not always attribute-based selling, pricing is the right words, but we will hear it from Marcus directly. So Marcus Müller, he's the managing director of Gauvendi. Gauvendi, I think, is one of the few, if not the only one, really applying some of the theory that we just discussing for years, which is really this selling the inventory in a different way. So we always selling inventory static. So we always have this kind of, bias, if you wish, on room types. So we think about room types all the time, but there might be some other ways of selling our rooms, right? So we're thinking dynamically, and when we think dynamically, we think about on attributes as well. So how can we change our ways of selling, thinking differently? And that's really what Marcus will tell us right now. Thank you very much. An applause to Marcus. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, session right after lunch is always tough, but anyway. So I'm the other Marcus Müller. How funny was that, to find my name on the list twice on the agenda, but anyway. My background is sales and marketing and hospitality, and I've been working around the globe, actually always leading regional, also global sales and marketing teams. But before we talk about some sales tactics and what is announced, I'd like to bring you right here to the core of our business. A couple checked in a hotel, and is shortly after they entered the room back at the front office, complaining, hey, this is not the room we booked, right? I'm here for my honeymoon with my wife, and I actually specifically asked for a big bed, and I wanted to have a quiet location and a view to the mountains. And what do I get? Facing the street, and the beds are separated. We want to change that room. And what happens here? So if that clerk is able and have the capability to change that couple's room, they might be still providing a great stay for that couple. But very often, our customers or guests not even say that, they not even come down, they just leave us a bad review. Or even more often, they're the silent complainers, the silent quitters, right? They just leave, will never come back to your property and talk negatively about it. So we have to ask ourselves, why is this actually happening? Because that's not a rare occasion. Or we have to better ask ourselves, what are we selling in the first place? Now you might be asking, here's a sales and marketing guy asking, what are we actually selling? And you will say, is he stupid or what? Because we're selling a good night's sleep, we're selling an experience. Are we selling experiences, really? Or are we selling commodities? And to discover that a bit, we have to look at it from our customers' eyes and their context of travel. Because it really much depends why I'm traveling in the first place. Am I coming for my honeymoon? Am I going for a business meeting? Am I coming for a vacation? It matters to what I'm expecting from that room experience. But it also matters with whom am I traveling? Do I travel alone? With my fiancé, with my wife, or with my mother, or with my kids? Or do I travel with my boss? It changes my expectation of what I'm getting. Or do I travel for 1 night, or 3 nights, or 7 nights, or 40 nights? It also changes. So we got to look at it from the customer's perspective. But we also have to understand what impacts a room experience in the first place. Let's look at a room experience, or what that is, or accommodation experience, right? What is impacting our perception of the experience? And of course, it's our 5 senses. Yeah, what we see, what we can smell, what we can hear, what we can touch, what we can taste. And as salespeople, we know this very well, because what do we do when we have important site inspections? We do showrooms. We set them up. TV is turned on. Lights are turned on. It smells nicely. Flower arrangements. We want to make the first impression great. We want to convert that piece of business. But there's another thing to it, and that is room functionality. And room functionality is often overlooked because it depends, or it matters, if you have one big bed or if you have 2 separate beds, if you have a shower or a bathtub, if you have a balcony or a terrace, it matters. It depends on why you're traveling, with whom you're traveling, and for how long you're traveling. And there's a third thing which impacts our room experience, And this is the expected anticipation. We often get this wrong because it's about what we see and expect actually the experience to be and what the actual experience is. And there's usually a gap. My sister recently sent me a photo. She booked a hotel room on the internet. It looked like on the left side. She got that on the right side. I found it amusing, but it happens. It's reality. Hopefully not in your properties, but it certainly is a wake-up call that we have to maybe change something or question something. And there's a fourth element which impacts the room experience. I call it movement through time and space. And this is about the design, because it tells different stories what objects you have in the room, right? It's different if you have a heritage desk or a modern desk. There's personal taste in it, but it's different storytelling for the room experience. And the last thing I want to mention, what also impacts the room experience, is your emotion, the emotion of our guests. And that's sometimes hard to influence because you have a bad flight or you have a fight with your spouse or whatever, and it impacts the room experience. But that's also why it's so important that the first step they enter your property, we're trying to drive positive, create positive emotions in our guests, right? The first entry is important. The arrival experience is important for the entire experience. So talking about that, we know what the guest's perspective, we're talking about the room experience. What do we do actually today? We have all these great properties, right? This is a new build, but it can be an existing property. We have serviced apartments, we have economy products, luxury products, resorts, all this kind of stuff. We talk to the best designers, we talk about restaurant concepts, new lobby concepts, everything, right? And then it comes to selling that stuff. And here we go, director sales and marketing, revenue manager, please fill the place for a high rate. And all of a sudden, and first, before we do this, what do we have to do? We have to take our whole inventory, which is the core asset of what we're actually selling, and have to categorize it into digestible standard room types. We say, okay, these rooms are standard rooms, and these are deluxe rooms, and these are the suites, and oh, actually we need another one, we need a superior, let's buy a coffee machine, and let's call that superior room, because the coffee machine is in there, and then we can sell it and do an upselling. And this is actually what we sell. We sell room types. What do? Right? We put everything on our website, brand.com. We confuse the customer if we have too much or not at all. We sell everything to everybody. And the first disconnect comes when we enter the booking engine and then see room types. And very often, if you're that honeymoon couple, you probably send an email or a call. And subject to who you have on the other line and the product knowledge of that person, you can have a superb experience, a consultative experience, or you can have an awful experience, people telling you, oh, why don't you book on the OTA? You found us. That's a disaster for salespeople. I don't want to say that. But what do we do with the OTAs? What do we sell there? We take our room categories, maybe not all of them if we have too many, and we put it on the OTA, but we cannot call them how we want to. We have to name them according to the OTA standard, because what do they want to do? They want to compare your lovely room products with the lovely room products from your competitor, because it's all about comparison. It's about options for their customers. And what do we do with our contracted business? We take our room category, usually the lowest one, and we negotiate on that. And what happens then? That's what we do. Maybe the second one, the third one, but mainly it's the lowest room category. And groups is a whole different ballgame, because for groups, we need to sell different price levels. It's kind of a run-of-the-house mix, because groups want to have, according to the hierarchy of the group, they want to have equally valued rooms, right? And that can be difficult subject to what type of property you're having. So what I'm trying to say here is what we're selling mainly room categories. We're not necessarily selling experiences here. It's mostly about price, and the room has been largely commoditized. So how do we end up selling commodities where travel is such an emotional, it's so emotional. We're not like the airlines, it's about hotel experiences. So you have to understand the history, how we ended here and got here where we are. So let's look at the 90s, right? In the 90s, some of you which were around will remember in the property management system, we had a lot more room categories. We had corner room, we had smoking rooms and all this kind of stuff. And then the 2000s came and the internet really kicked off. And after 9/11, the OTAs became the dominant business source for many of our hotels. And what do we have to do? Because all of a sudden we found rates on the internet which were lower than the ones we were selling directly. What happened? Some wholesaler or some tour operator contracted another partner who offered the room lower than we did directly. And we had to get back some control, so we had to simplify the inventory to order that, to make some sense of that mess. And what happened then in the 2010s? The distribution jungle got even more complex. Everybody used a channel manager, right? I mean, all these things, it's very dynamic pricing was what we discussed today is a dominant thing. So it was very hard, or it's very hard to manage all that distribution jungle. So we had to simplify our inventory. And this is still what we do today. But what happened during that time? What happened during the same time with our consumer? I mean, especially after the pandemic, consumer trends accelerated, including personalization, because our customers are very much accustomed to personalization. Yeah? They can stream music wherever, whenever they want to. They can watch their favorite shows whenever, wherever they want to. They can order personalized sneakers. They can do everything personalized, but when it comes to booking rooms, we are kind of captured in the corset of a room category. And are we surprised that we have customers which actually want more individualization? Have a look at this.
Hello, I'm Miriam.
Got it. Maisel and Meyerson, that's for you. Get yourself a hokey pokey.
Welcome to the Fountain Group. We have you in a
Standard room, twin beds.
facing the ocean, not the pool.
Away from the elevator.
And the ice machine.
Near the cigarette machine.
And the emergency exit. What floor? 10th floor.
Oh, too high.
Room service gets cold.
And you can't jump out if there's a fire.
3rd floor, away from families.
Kids scream.
She swears.
No kids or no first-time fuckers.
Pardon me? Newlyweds.
They scream too.
Anything else?
Yes, do you have a set of hotel schematics we could look at?
We're most interested in the kitchen ventilation system and the routing of the ductwork. Remember the ambassador in LA?
Oh, the whole place smelled like chlorine and discount cocaine.
I'll go ask.
How many of the words in that request do you think she understood?
Not everyone outside of Manhattan's an idiot.
Well,
So are we surprised? These are our customers really like to have in our front office, right? So, but let me put it in a different context here. Let's imagine we would use the same logic. We sell rooms today, and we would be trying to sell dresses. We're in Milan, so I thought maybe we want to sell dresses, and we're an online retailer. Let's say we have these red dresses, and we want to sell that. But the way how we would manage inventory, we show it's a red dress, but we can't actually say it's a red dress because we don't know if it's for sure a red dress when it delivers. We can also not say the size of it. We have to be very vague. It has to be medium size. Could be anything. And also the variety of fabrics, because what we do with our customers, it could be anything. It could be red, green, or brown when they check in, or when they actually get it, or it could be 36 to 44, and it could be anything from elastane or cotton and so on. That wouldn't be a great experience for our guests. But this is actually what we do with our guests, and they're used to it. And why we know this? Because review sites are full of it. Just look at some prominent review sites. There's 100 room tips, 400 room tips, 60 room tips, and whatever. So what are you going to do about it? We talk about sales here. A room facing the courtyard is quieter than one facing the street. Thank you very much. Dear other guest, I'm going to ask for that courtyard view room. And what can you do with this as a hotel? Can you make money out of it? If it's not the same category, you can't. You cannot upsell me, can't do anything with it. Or pick a room at the top floor to avoid the street noise. Oh, thank you for telling me that. I don't want the street noise. I want to have the other room. Yeah, good luck to the receptionist. What are we doing to our reception? This is not, and we cannot even monetize it. This is really a compromise we live in today. We still live with this big compromise called room category, because it is a lack of transparency during the booking process, but because this is about sales, and this bothers me the most, it's a weak negotiation power base. It's basically low differentiation. I'm selling room categories, everybody else sells room categories. Or think about this, we are talking about pricing. What do we price basically what on? We talk about a room category which we price. It's a mixed calculation. Is that a true, really demand of actually our customers or of our inventory? So if we want to elevate new sales tactics, if we want to do this, if we want to really drive personalization in our industry, we have to do one thing. We have to change the way we manage room inventory, right? And fortunately, there is some cure. We have been doing this and practicing with this. It's not, by the way, it's not a vaccination. It's also not a pill. It is a new data structure for inventory management. a new data structure. And when you talk about new data structure, which is the basis for any type of new sales strategies, which I'm going to show you, and which are available today with real results, we have to change this. So the first thing we do is, you know, this is your beautiful properties, and you have room number 1 and 2 and 3, and they're all linked to room categories. And what we have done is, we decoupled that. This is your room, and here are the products we sell. And we have created something which we call polydynamic. And this means we can sell still categories, but we can also capture much more individual data from your inventory, high floor, low floor, this view, bathtub, shower, whatever, and also sell feature-based products. But we can also sell combined products, room next to each other, 3 rooms next to each other, connecting rooms. Or we can sell virtual rooms, call it something different, sell it under a different name. How does it look like? Let me give you an example. So let's say you have a room number 501 in your property management system, and you sell it as a junior suite, right? You have that maybe on an OTA as a junior suite. But at the same time, you can sell that room as a business executive room. Because what happened here? Because your corporate traveler is not allowed to stay in a suite. You can sell the same room under a different name for another price. Or for the Maisels of this world, the people who really want personalization. I want that quietly located, etc. You can have the lovely corner suite, high floor, quietly located, but you pay extra for this. You make money out of this. Or I'm coming with my kids. I have a whole different willingness to pay. This segment is completely different. I'm not interested in that one room rate. I'm interested in the room rate together. So I sell it as a family combination with connecting room for a different price. So with this type of inventory management, I want to show you real-life examples how it's implemented on 2 sales tactics, and there's many more. But these 2 I want to highlight. One is labeling tactics, the other one is attribute-based selling. So let me start with the labeling one, which we already have seen this morning a little bit with the water. A little anecdote to that. A couple of years back, I was celebrating a birthday at a bar. It was quite dark with a friend. And we said, come on, let's just have a toast. Let's order a bottle of champagne, right? Dom Perignon, 320 euros. And because it was dark, the label of that champagne was illuminated in the dark. The entire bar looked at us. And I thought, oh my gosh, what a show off, right? Then when we had the first sip, I looked at the menu again and I saw the same bottle without the illuminated label, 40 euros less. And I thought, what happened? 40 euros just to show off? How can we apply this in hospitality? How can I sell my rooms like that? And this is what we have implemented. We have implemented a new strategy called graded labeling, where we put on the top left, we put some graded label, meaning lowest price, most popular, frequently booked, etc., etc. And underneath, we put on the products. By the way, this doesn't work when we have categories, because frequently booked, my junior suite, or most popular, my deluxe room, doesn't really pull it off. But if you say most popular is a spacious room, high floor, away from the elevator, it's a whole different expectation, right? And after all, Amazon has done it for years with us, right? People who bought this book also bought that book. Anyway, what were the results? And we took a quarter results, about 5,000 bookings. And what the results were astonishing. Every 3rd guest booked either most popular or frequently booked. Every 3rd guest. Average rates increased by 18%. And we saw an enormous shift towards higher value products. And there was another thing which changed. We had different discussions in revenue management, because all of a sudden, we didn't talk about the pricing as such only alone. We talked about the price jumps between those offers. Was that the right price jump, or at which point did we lose people to the lowest price product versus most popular versus recommended, and so on? Very powerful stuff and very interesting. So that was the first example. Let me go to the second example, which is sometimes referred to as abs, but it's not muscles. That's why this thing, it's attribute-based selling or attribute-based shopping. And the name actually comes from the airlines, where they made us paying for our luggage when we booked a flight. And the hospitality talked about it for years, for 10 years. How can we unbundle the core room product and sell, monetize the different features and attributes of these rooms, right? Just to clarify, it's not the upselling which we do anyway. It's not the late checkout. It's not this kind of stuff. This has been out for years, and it's successful, and it's great. But this is not what we mean with this kind of stuff. We mean selling and unbundle the room experience so you can book high floor, low floor, and this kind of stuff. So how did we implement this? And because we're not the airlines, we want to sell experiences. We implement it in a very, very different way. It's about selling experiences. So this is how it's implemented in the hotels. That's a booking site, just screen. So you'll see, of course, you can enter the travelers, the number of rooms, the calendar when you're traveling, but you will also find a configurator bar of choosing your preferences for your room. And the difference is here that you get percentage matches. And the hero, all of a sudden, is not the price point, by the way. It's a percentage match because people are choosing some stuff and they're getting the different matches. And the results were, again, astonishing because 25% of all the bookings using the same data set chose their own preferences. And average rate went up 21% over the lowest price. And also the ancillary sales went up because people were got into this behavior of the shopping basket mode. They're throwing everything in. It's like in a supermarket, just end up with more than you actually wanted to pay. And they had this gamification effort with this matches. But what you notice, there's not a price point for each feature. It's actually always a holistic presentation because what we figured out is you don't make that choice based on one feature. A lot of times customers do not know what they actually want, but it's about the entire experience. And it's about that transparency. And also customers actually repeated then to us or mentioned to us that they had a lot less phone calls, up to 70% less, because people were booking online what they usually had to call for or send an email. There's another huge advantage of selling like this, and this is your marketing communication. This is what we do today. We sell discounted promotions, right? The hotel is empty, let's make a discount, 30%, 20%, 50%, and so on. And this is the message being out. But all of a sudden, we can change that message. We can change, choose from 100 features and get your best match. And now we're selling personalization. And it doesn't mean that we're not using the same price point at the discounted offer. That is not the point. The point is that we're changing the message. And think about it. When you only sell discounted products, what does it do for your brand and your long-term RevPAR growth? So we have to change that message. And personalization was a good way, very powerful way to differentiate you from your competitor. And there's this third thing, which is very powerful, new data. This is not an illusion or something. This is real, from a real hotel. What are the results of people selecting and feature-based? And you can see what have they selected, what were the matches, and what were the dismatches or the things which were not available at that time, and what have they sold. And what are the implications of that? There were three main implications. The first thing was the room pricing and room feature pricing changed according to demand and supply, and we had completely new insights, and some views were not so popular as we thought they were, and some other things were also not so popular. People are willing to pay for low floor exactly the same much as for high floor. It's just a different customer group. And these were some really good insights which are applied. The second thing is capital investment decisions, because we want to improve our customer guest stays. So we know now how many bathtubs versus showers. We know how many twin versus king beds. We have that data. It's based on data. It's a lot better. And the third is the marketing communication, because now we know which kind of customer profile or guest profiles preferred which type of features based on data, and your marketing communication changes a lot. Well, there's a couple of considerations. Obviously, you can't do that if you don't change your way how you manage inventory. You can't do this with room types. It's not meant to be for room types. So you have to consider a couple of things. The first thing is, you have to move away from booking engines and you have to apply sales engines. Because what happens otherwise, you confuse the customer. You cannot put everything on there on the shelf. You've got to sort it. It's like in a good department store, right? You have your women's dresses, it's clear. You need a sales engine. Basically, it puts transparency and relevance on top according to the customer segment traveling. You also need some new automation, because when you sell through all these different channels, it's getting complex. So you need automated lengths of stay restrictions to avoid some overbooking on room types. And you need some, which I call dynamic inventory management. This is really like Tetris expert level. Tetris game, you know, where you put this, it's very complex. You want to make sure there's some algorithm supporting this, because you assign a room and you reassign this room, and still it matches to maximize your RevPAR, but also considers all that operational constraints you have, right? Oh, I don't want to occupy the 5th floor, I want to save energy, I want to do all this stuff. So it's complex, so you need some automation on that one. So what are the takeaways? Our company has given the data, because we are still a startup. We launched about 12 months back. We gave them that data to an independent consultant, Hudson Crossing in the US, and they came up with a model in terms of what's actually in it for the hotels from an independent source. And they came up with this information. They said, here's 100% of the addressable revenue. I can see from your data there's a channel shift, absolutely. Customers' reviews were improving, so the Net Promoter Score went up. Yeah, there was a share shift from your competitor. There was higher conversions, and also new revenue stream, which is the attributes and features. So overall, 24% gross impact. So significant. But I just, maybe as a final takeaway, what can you do without technology? What can you do today? Because I'm coming from sales and marketing, and product knowledge, every salesperson will tell you, of course, it's important. You have to understand your property in order to sell better. So what can you do? Just look at your inventory one more time, because many times we not even question the way how we put the categorization into place. And this is important, just do that. Identify the room features which are attracting various customer segments. And this is just good, this is just cleaning up the cupboard. Regroup categories if necessary, and then sharpen your sales pitches and reservation pitches, at least for the reservations you do via email and online. You don't need any technology for that. You just need to update your property management systems. And then, if you like this and you want to go to the next level, then you review your tech stack and think about automation and what's possible today, and what kind of cool sales tactics you can actually do. And with that, thank you. Leave it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Marcus. Really fascinating, inspiring. You really inspire me, because I never got an effect of changing the name as well with the features, but just presenting differently. It opened my eyes now. It's like, okay, that's different. So, questions? Anyone? Urgent questions? Yeah, here we are. Oh, you give it? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. My understanding from your speech is completely different than suggestion number 3, because regrouping categories, it means to regroup a couple of categories, but your suggestion was to divide them more and more and more precise. If you can give a little bit explanation, because I understood we need more room categories from your speech, and at the end you suggest you regroup them.
Okay, so, well, thanks for the question and thanks for the clarification. What we have done, today you have a room and you have a category attached to this room. But we decoupled the logic of what we are selling, the product, from the physical room. So you can have multiple products selling the same room. And that's what we have been doing. If you don't have that technology, I'm just saying for now, you can still review if you have still the right categorization. But what we have been doing, we decoupled it, so we can sell the same room as completely different product, as a suite, but also as an executive room, or as an individualized room. It's always the same room number. It's just like a good salesperson who would tell you, according to the customer need, and sell it differently to you. It's a different storytelling behind that room experience. That's what we've been doing.
Some other questions?
Any other question?
He didn't understand.
PMS is impossible. If we want to do this, we have to, any PMS, I think, in the world, for example, double standard, 99% of the hotel, and double superior. If we want, we have to put them in a different category.
Thanks for that question. That's why it's revolutionary, because we connect to the PMS, and we are very deeply integrated in PMSs, and the room number is the key translation here. We are not interested in the names of the categories you have in your PMS. We're interested in the room number. And we are overwriting that in the PMS, at least with the PMSs we're working with. It is definitely something to grasp, I agree. I wonder why property management systems not doing this, but they haven't. So we have to teach them how to do it.
That's what I was saying. It's the first time we see it in action, right? So it's not necessarily a theory. Okay, so the theory is there for long, but now we see it really in action. And when I see some examples, I have to be honest myself, is revolutionary. So it's really interesting. I'm wondering myself if you can take a question from me, but it's more about except OTAs, but as well from pricing comparison. So if we just compare with competitors, how do we do that? So you just set up a standard room and you just say, fish this, Booking.com or Expedia, I will just sell my, so how are you doing that? It's more my question.
Well, that's an interesting, a lot of hoteliers are worried about that and saying, oh, well, I'm more expensive than an OTA or I'm less expensive. So we, it depends on the property, but we do obviously, in the US, for example, there's still rate parity. So we have some clients in the US. So there you find the lowest price room and the category is still parity with your OTA, right? But then you have on top saying it's about price jumps. Then you have maybe only 3 or 4, depending on the price structure of that hotel, it's only small jumps. So you do that. And for the European hotels, it's again about transparency. We have noticed that maybe the standard room, maybe you sell a standard room facing the street, which is cheaper. This is not upselling, this is kind of downselling, but it's transparency. And the rate is cheaper than your OTA. If you want to have a better room, you have to pay more. And that's the kind of stuff, but you're right, there's a lot of fears. You just have to try it.
Change is the biggest fear anyhow.
Yes.
So anyhow. So thank you very much. Sorry, there's another
Thank
question.
you.
No, wait. Last question, because then we need to
No, I just wanted to know, very, very interesting, is the technology already out there for this?
That's live. It's not a game or some study or something. We are live with about 30...
So the sales engine rather than the booking engine is already working? And
correct. It goes in combination because to that point, you need to automate property management system issues there. On the same time, you need to replace a booking engine to a sales engine because otherwise you can't sell this kind of stuff. So it's a combination of both, and yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Big applause. Thank you very much. Thank you, Marcus.